I'm not going to worry about your level of concern.
Yoy and double yoy.
We talking about
Twitter.
Triple yoy.
Think of how stupid the average person is, and then realize half of them are stupider than that.
Quadruple yoy.
Coach T, besides my Lord and Savior, Coach T saved me.
I believe in the United States of America, and I believe in the Pittsburgh Steelers.
The Pittsburgh Steelers, not the Baltimore Ravens, as of this morning, are a playoff team.
A2, Judas. I think Coward is, it only took him a matter of weeks to go back on his Steelers playoff prediction.
Or weeks, or simply looking at his ratings, looking at needing more impressions. Absolutely.
We'll get to that in the second half. It's what Jin's talking about. The conversation about the Steelers' social media conversation, exposing all your hot and toxic takes all across Steeler Nation and beyond, the media, the universe, the X-verse.
Parallel dimensions all the way throughout, yeah.
The threadosphere, the MCU.
Oh, the threadosphere?
I don't know. I just made that up.
Oh, okay. No, I mean, it's probably out there too, sure.
I'm Kyle Kreis. With me is Mr. Season Tickets, Greg Benevent.
Hello.
On the ones and twos, the Cleveland Kid. His name is a crime. The criminal, Rob Banks.
Hey, thanks for having me. And go Browns, beat those Jets. Hall of Fame game.
Always glad to see Rob here. Yes.
That's how low we've gotten. We've had to. That's how the strike has affected us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Coming up in the second half. Hey, we'll blame Canada. We'll groom Kenny. All of the above.
Yes.
But the era is here. It's that time we've been waiting for.
These are the new leads. These are the Glengarry leads.
The Glengarry Plays are here. Let's get to the tweets.
I'm so glad you finally got that clip. That is so great.
Starting with at Faribaugh, FB, Nick Faribaugh. Connor Hayward takes the jet sweep, but this time he throws instead of running it, finds Pat Fryermuth on the pass for the touchdown. Matt Canada trickeration. It's here. The real Canada has stood up.
I mean, I guess. I mean, it's interesting. This is like, I would have thought this is one of the appendices to the Glengarry leads, like the trick plays. I had always thought the Glengarry plays were, here's the other things we're going to do with Kenny. Like, here's the things where it's, attacking the middle of the field and, not just having a post. But hey, this is all part of it too. This is one more aspect of it. Again, I'm not sure how many passes I want Connor Hayward throwing, but once or twice a year, sure.
Oh, you thought all this development was for Kenny, the franchise quarterback. No, that's what everyone is thinking. Look, everyone's looking at Kenny to have the ball. No, so we're zagging when they zig, and it's Hayward to Muth. If you had that on your fantasy on ballot or whatever your betting slip.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in the fantasy league where you get to picking the other teams, where you're down to picking third string tight ends or maybe second string fullbacks or whatever position it is Hayward actually plays, absolutely no. And also this hits me just how much the word trickeration has evolved. Like 2 decades ago, it was like a clever play on words. Now it's apparently an actual technical term we're using.
Trickeration is a noun, right? Which is the personification of trickery, which is also a noun, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's synonymous with trickery. Like it, it's but anyway, but yes. So I mean, this is one more thing. I guess if they do this once in a game and it works great, and if it doesn't, then it'll be one more reason to fire Canada if Hayward misses this pass.
This is it. This is the okay. Well, this is not the only Glengarry play.
Oh, here it comes.
At Alex Kozora. Kendrick Green has become a fan favorite. Catches another pass in the flat, legit runs through Tanner Muse, spins off, stays on his feet, gets 10 more yards. There's Yak. There's Catch and Run. This is Kendrick Green, the if you would have said public enemy #1 on Steeler Nation a week ago.
I mean, you're right. If you going into camp, you say which players are the fans least happy to see there. Kendrick Green would absolutely be on top of it. Now just wild cheering anytime he's anywhere near the ball. And what's particularly spooky about this to me is that, I mean, obviously it came from Vince Williams, but still, this feels like it was started by Twitter.
Could this be?
I mean, I'm not saying that's what made that Tomlin was looking at his Twitter account. You know what? That would be a good idea. But but I mean, the Vince Williams tweet, was that a year ago? I mean, you can't totally roll it out.
You don't know what you're talking about. Like, it's just annoying.
I don't know. Maybe there's something to it there.
It very well could be. I mean, it's something else to do with Kendrick Green versus letting him get beat on the line by like a third string linebacker.
I don't think we've ever seen. I can't think of anything like this where the guy has gone from we want him off the team, yesterday to now he's. There's going to be jerseys in the stands.
Cheers at the mention of his name. Yes, I can't think of that. I mean, everything you think of like that is... And there's really nothing close. I was going to say Deshae Townsend. He got benched, and then he came back as a starter and was fine. People were not running out and buying Townsend 26 jerseys, nor were they going nuts at the mere mention of his name. No, this is totally new in terms of Steeler fandom. It really is.
Is something like Robert Spillane count? Like he emerges with that Derrick Henry hit,
and the interception touchdown against Lamar.
Yeah,
I mean, that was all around that time. But no, it's still not the same thing because nobody looked at the undrafted free agent Spillane and thought, okay, this guy's a bust. They thought he's an undrafted free agent. He's not going to play that much versus a third-round pick who was put in immediately as the starting center and given the number of the departing center who has at least an outside shot at the Hall of Fame. And I think we can all kind of realize now maybe Kendrick Green was hired for a job maybe he wasn't necessarily the most qualified for. I think there's a lot of blame to go around there. But yeah, this is new. This is new for the fans doing an exact 180 in the span of like 3 passes.
In a matter of maybe 5 seconds. Like, if when he probably walked out on the field, they were like, what's Kendrick Green doing out there on the field? And then as soon as he touched the ball, they're like, Kendrick Green for the win.
Right. And Truck's a career special teamer, and Tanner Muse.
I mean, he's inspired a set of me. Let's see what tell me what your favorite Kendrick Green meme of the week is. Let's go to the board here. We've got Kendrick Green at guard, depressed. Kendrick Green at fullback, thriving.
I mean, this one's cute, but I never understood this meme in the first place. Like, does the person looking at the sad person not understand that the mountains are over there? Like, we're all going on the same tram in the same direction.
That's the point. We're all on the same globe together.
I see, but the guy just didn't turn his head. So I mean, that's fine. I mean, it's the fact that we're making Kendrick Green memes. I think is still a lot for me to wrap my mind around.
Okay, well, how about this classic?
Oh God,
me, Kendrick Green as a center, Kendrick Green as a fullback. Woohoo!
I never knew this meme needed that noise before, but
I don't know.
No, you're right. No, you're right. It does. Right, exactly. That's
if you're not watching it on home, yeah.
And I think these are both the same woman, right? Didn't we find that?
Is it?
Or something like that. Or maybe I'm thinking of a different version of this. But
I don't think.
But yeah, no, this one's fine. I mean, they're all, again, we're talking this much about Kendrick Green. That's a sign that A, it really is an amazing turnaround, and B, nothing has happened of note yet.
How about one more? This is my favorite meme. Glasses off, Kendrick Green. Glasses on, Jim Brown.
All right, that's cute. That's adorable. I like
Jim
this
Brown.
one because at least it gets it.
Like
but at least this is a joke. Like there's an exaggeration in it. And I also like the kind of compression you have to do on this picture to get Kendrick Green in there. Like you made him like a foot. You had to make him a foot shorter and like 30 pounds wider.
Let's see. I think we got Kendrick Green with the ball here. Oh, let's take a look at this is for watching on YouTube. Oh, there we go. Like. Oh wait, let's let the lag come on. Here we go.
Okay.
But okay, no, we're still gonna lag. Well, that's
just how big and slow the man moves. I mean, that's
I mean, they're giving him these are real fullback reps.
Yes.
These aren't.
These are the actual drills.
This isn't like a gimmick. Like Marquise Pouncey's kicking field goals at camp.
Or when him and Ben would throw touchdown passes, whatever that goofiness was. Yes, exactly. This is. I mean, and also too, just on top of the fact that these reps are happening. I mean, if there's one thing we know, they are very serious and conservative about which of these reps get used when. That is something they schedule out well in advance. So, yeah, this is something they're actually looking at.
Well, can we talk reality, though? Because when it comes to this 53, all right, so let's say that they keep 9 or even 10 linemen. They still can only dress 8 on game days.
Right.
So you got your 5 starters. I'm assuming there's another tackle getting dressed, like our first-round rookie.
Certainly.
Then they say Nate Herbig seems to be not only the backup guard, but maybe even the backup center.
A few other positions, yes.
So that's 7. So now if you want Kendrick Green to get fullback snaps, you've got to dress him. He's the 8th. He's the 8th offensive lineman there.
Right. And I think that your point, the point that you're making, which is very valid, is shows exactly why on some level they're going through all of these things, because they want to see, is Kendrick Green worth this? Like, that's what you're doing all of this for. It's because without this fullback stuff, there was no way that we're even having this conversation about him being one of these 8. They have to try all these things just to see if he really is worth it. So, yeah, I'd be surprised if you get a whole lot of this throughout the season. I have no idea how practice squad eligibility works at this point. I know from what Tomlin said, that's where this originally comes from last year when they were preparing for the Ravens, and they had Green do some of this because I guess their fullback is similar, someone that used to be a guard. But yeah, that's why you have to try all this, just to see if there's even the slightest chance that he's going to sneak into that 8.
So if that's the case, then you're okay then with cutting? You'd have to cut Kevin Dotson probably, or he'd be the inactive guy,
right? Or you trade him, or see what. Again, I don't know what practice squad eligibility is now, but I'm not saying I'm comfortable with it. I'm saying I've seen enough that I'd like to see this in preseason games to see if this really is worth it. Plus, you know what else I'd like to see in a preseason game? Kendrick Green playing the offensive line.
Well, from what I mean, according to Wednesday's practice, it sounds like he was there at center, and it was more of the same.
Right, so. Exactly. It's his hand is weak, or they got to his shoulder, or whatever they did during Ben's last season that made Kendrick Green so inadequate. I remember someone who knows a lot more than me saying that.
So really, he's really on the roster only to be a fullback. He's not. You don't really want him to be there playing center snaps.
No, I wouldn't. No. But
so are you happy? Are you giving him a roster spot to be the fullback that might only get 4 to 5 snaps a game if he's dressed? If he dresses,
not before seeing 3 preseason games. I mean, maybe this is an amazing thing. Maybe it takes off. Maybe they can sneak someone else onto the practice squad. But going into this training camp a week or so ago, yes, is Kendrick Green? And yes, absolutely not. I mean, that's ridiculous. Why are we even talking about this? The fact that there's even the slightest bit of hesitancy in my voice today means that things have changed dramatically.
Steelers football is 60 minutes. It's never going
training
to be
camp
pretty.
is a 60-minute game, apparently.
So,
points out the window.
3 years of 60
minutes,
minutes, apparently.
To the end.
So camp, we're gonna fight to the end. We'll see. Because then you got names like LaRaven Clark, then like on the practice squad or not on the roster.
Or even just cutting out.
That 7th round rookie who
Spencer or something
can play guard and tackle. It's like.
That seems like a guy you could get on the practice squad, the 7th round rookie. I mean, that one. Then again, maybe the washed out center who at best can give you 4 to 5 snaps at fullback a game. Also, maybe a guy, if he still has eligibility, gets on the practice squad too.
I asked if he's playing any special teams, and people were like, "No, I haven't really been paying attention." I asked Chris Adamansky, I think, at the Trib. I haven't been paying attention, but it's like if he could even do.
Again, that's a real the more you can do, because then all of a sudden he's in a totally different conversation for who those roster spots are.
Let's talk more roster. Let's move on to at PG Sports Now, Post Gazette Sports. Steeler Insider Ray Fittipaldo is ready to take your questions from training camp. And the question is Anthony McFarland a roster lock? And Insider Ray Fittipaldo says, if they keep 3 running backs, McFarland is probably that guy. But they haven't felt the need to dress 3 running backs. Maybe they'll just keep their number 3 running back on the practice squad. Now, this is interesting. This is how maybe you get a Kendrick Green on your 53. Right. If you only have 2, is it just Warren, Najee? as your running backs?
Well, I mean, and also because I assume in a game where should catastrophe strike and both of them go down and they can't run, then Hayward, I assume, becomes kind of your feature back for whatever's left of that game. I mean, that game's probably lost, but I mean, it's not like at that point, you're just doing handoffs to Pickens or something. But I sort of get every time I read one of these practice reports about what's happening, it's another handoff or pass to Anthony McFarland. And it very well could be, and it's camp. So that means one of two things is happening. One, hey, they are going to feature McFarland. He's going to be used more often than you think he is going to be the third running back. Or two, like Kendrick Green, we want to see if there's any value there whatsoever. So we're going to use him as much as possible now to see if he makes this decision more difficult on us in a few weeks.
He doesn't. Only thing he doesn't play special teams.
He's
That's
like
a
this
knock.
tall from when he's like tiny dude.
So if he's automatically not going to be dressed if he makes the 53, if he's an automatic undressed,
of the undressed, I don't know. That all sounds correct. Yeah.
It's kind of like, what is his role then? Just to stash, just to have a running back. If you put someone like him on the practice squad, is another team going to say, "Hey, we'll take all the running backs we can find"?
I mean, maybe, but I find that a little hard to believe because I didn't know he was going to make the team last year. So I think the thing is, Anthony McFarland, maybe that year he was the 4th round pick. Maybe somebody might have taken him for you. But boy, there's a lot of these guys, aren't there? Guys that run hard and fast at Big Ten schools or something equivalent, and then maybe they don't have the best seasons. Maybe you can find another one of those guys that's a little bit younger, maybe. So I'd be surprised if someone just rips him off the practice squad, but that doesn't seem. It seems like if they do, maybe you could find somebody else as Anthony McFarland.
Kendrick Green,
right? Yes,
I think Kendrick Green. Okay, enough of. No, wait, not enough. Let's keep going. To we got more roster talk. Sorry, I'm looking for the different sound effects, and I'm looking for this one. At CD Corey Christen, Kenny Pickett shared who he believes has emerged as the Steelers' 4th wide receiver. He called this teammate reliable. From DK Sports, it's Gunnar Olszewski.
Yes, Gunnar Olszewski. I heard it. Yeah, again, that's another one that makes a decision difficult. But he's also one that looked very good in preseason last year, up until he fumbled that kick against the Patriots.
Yeah, that right now, what was interesting with the first depth chart that came out, it was basically all veterans or experienced players over rookies and newcomers.
Which is how it always is.
Except for kick return and punt return, where it was Calvin Austin, who's never touched the ball in a pro game.
Or a preseason game.
Yeah. In first depth chart over Gunnar. So it's kind of like, okay, yeah, Gunnar's really got to earn, if it's more like it's Austin's job to lose than Gunnar's to win as far as the return spot. But if you say he's going to be the number 4, hands down, receiver, and then you got to have Miles Boykin for special teams then, right?
Right.
I mean,
somebody good is going to get cut. Somebody who can make an NFL roster, who can contribute to an NFL roster is going to be cut and contribute to someone else's NFL roster.
That sounds good to me. Would you call Gunnar a roster lock at this stage and point?
I mean, I wouldn't, but if he gets cut, I don't think anyone's going to go and ask Kenny and say, "Hey, you found this guy reliable. What happened?" I think this feels like things that these quotes, all this moments, like these are all things that happen where we are right before the first preseason game. Where we're still in that hey, this looks good in practice versus who looks good against anyone else who's not wearing the same jersey.
Against real gray faces.
Right, exactly. Or those lovely, the bright pale orange Buccaneer jerseys.
But if Kenny sees that Gunnar is reliable. I mean, coaches, it's not like Kenny and coaches are on totally different wavelengths.
Absolutely.
If Kenny's seeing hey, Gunnar's turned out to be the guy, although I did see. Did you see Hakeem Butler on those one-on-one drills? Oh gosh,
right.
He's a real grown man.
That's a big dude.
Yeah.
And that's why he's going to keep being. If he's not in the Steelers camp, he's going to be in somebody's camp because he's not getting any shorter if this team cuts him.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like a man playing against boys. The way he, that's one-on-one.
Which I'm sure is what it looked like in the XFL or whatever too, when he was playing in that.
Then I'll give Gunnar credit on his one-on-one drill. He shook JP Jr. pretty well.
Not easy to do.
So okay, so it's Gunner. So I think it's a as far as we said on the eve of the first preseason game, I think Gunner is a lock as we sit here.
Yes, before anything has been, and I think that's the other part of it too, is that I take Tomlin at his word that none of this has been decided. That he and the rest of them really are going to determine that. Maybe they have an idea. I do know with 100% certainty that that depth chart would never have come out if it wasn't mandated by the league. At no point would Tomlin do that unless he had to.
Yeah.
You're exactly right.
That's right.
I get two exactly right.
You got, okay. How about one last thing on the rosters? Let's go to, where am I going to? Let's do this one. At Mark Cabali, insider Mark Cabali. Hard to find an avenue where Dan Moore Jr. isn't the starting left tackle to start the season. His quote is, Moore is blowing Jones out of the water.
Which is weird because our beloved alum Christopher Carter has said the exact opposite, which is why I'm so glad I've never watched a practice. Or it's very easy to drive yourself crazy following these things, because I don't know, I can't determine it, and I certainly can't extrapolate out from whatever happened in a drill versus what happens when whoever is playing that position will be going up against the defending National League football defensive player of the year. So that's what that was the thing that always made me think it was going to be Moore regardless, just because again this is very first game, first one, and here is your defending league MVP.
So this is we should wait until at least Saturday morning. Until,
I would think that would be where I would be with it. But I always thought Moore was going to start this game regardless of what Jones did. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think Moore is going to start week one. I think it's might be a little surprising to hear like Moore is blowing Jones out of the water.
I hadn't heard that, and again because everyone else has said the opposite, including I believe Carbali's former employer, right?
Yeah, I think DK was what their guys were saying. But everyone's using different. Like the biggest on the rise guy or something. Well, does that mean good or not? Like on the rise guy. I don't know.
No, Carter said that recently that Jones was on track to start.
All right. Well,
it's good to see the big boy.
Yeah, I just want we can put them both out there as far as I'm.
There's times they needed that in the past with how many left tackles.
All right, why don't we take a break?
Okay.
And in the second half, we'll talk. Blaming Canada. There's still time to blame Canada.
Even before it's time to blame, even before there's something to blame.
Great. Because after this first preseason game and the Glengarry Plays come out, then it's going to be, extend Canada. That's the hashtag. We'll also groom Kenny some, and who knows what else. I don't know.
Indeed.
All right, that's coming up in the second half. Hold on.
Remember the heartbreaks. Remember the tears. Getting it all together takes so many years. Remember the close ones, and there were a few. You never gave up trying, wanting to come through. Well, this is your moment. You've learned how to fly. We'll remember that long road once more, then kiss it goodbye. You gotta believe it's your turn. You gotta believe it's true. In Pittsburgh we believe the Pirates will come through. You gotta believe it's your turn. You gotta believe it's true. You know that we believe 'cause we believe in you.
We're back. It's the second half of your final preseason.
And not a moment too soon on that.
Let the preseason begin. So that we can let the season begin. And then
Or else just don't have to talk about the preseason.
the preseason is the longest preseason in his. It doesn't, maybe not in Steelers history, but it certainly feels like it.
It's gone. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of times like, oh, I can't believe the season's that far away, and then also think like, I can't believe it hasn't started yet.
Now is the time to play the hits. No, where is it? You know the hits. Play him. Before we see the Glengarry Plays, we still have reason to bitch and complain. Is that a rhyme? I'm a poet now. Starting with at Yins Up. Yins Up. All I have to say is if Matt Canada does not use Darnell Washington on a regular basis in the passing game, y'all better put money on my books. What I'm going to do is for Yins. He's saying he's going to go like take care of Matt Canada.
Oh, okay. Because I couldn't follow this. Like you were supposed to bet on him or Darnell Washington not doing anything. Okay, thank you for illuminating the threat.
He's talking about murder.
Yeah,
Okay,
well, who knows?
I
Who
mean,
knows? You know,
as much as we can trust the integrity of Yins Up.
So, Canada, right? He's got all the weapons. There's no excuses. It's got Kenny. He's passing over the middle.
Again, the third round rookie tight end apparently is what we need to run the offense through.
Yeah. So, what is Darnell in a regular? Because I got a text this week saying, Darnell on my fantasy team, and I'm thinking, I think this dude might only get 2 touches a game or something.
I would be very. I mean, I would imagine there's going to be games where he might get like 7 or 8 catches, but I think there'd be a lot more 2 or 3. I mean, it's at I don't want to be like too conservative here, but I think a pretty good going into the season paradigm for how they might use Washington is look at how they used Gentry last year.
Yeah.
Like maybe a little more than that because Washington's clearly much more talented. But the idea that like, okay, he's out there maybe 3rd and long, 3rd and something, and you just kind of hope the other team's defense forgets about him. Or certainly I do think they'll use Washington more in the red zone just because it's like, okay, this guy's big. We can throw him the ball. But so maybe a little bit more than that. But if you were kind of establishing a baseline for what it might be, that's where my mind would go.
I see him as, he comes in for some run plays, maybe he comes in 10 snaps a game, and then it's like on that 10th snap, then he
Right.
chips the guy and goes out for a route,
Right.
maybe,
Gets, 6 yards on 3rd and 4, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm.
So no, I'm not expecting, don't draft him on your fantasy teams. Don't.
Right. I mean, unless you're in some league again where it's like you can go like 40 rounds deep and we're going to 4th string tight ends. And,
touchdown only league, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Or a league that somehow incorporates blocking. I'm not sure how that works, but yeah.
Oh, blocking. That would be a fun fantasy league. Okay. Let's move on to at Bigfoot's 0169 Jitterbug, Mr. Optimistic. Okay, LOL for Matt Canada haters. Remember when the Steelers offense finishes in the top 5 in the NFL overall and top 10 in many categories, and you're pleading AR2 to keep him? Ask yourself, is it Matt Canada finally getting it, the players, or the addition of Glenn Thomas? So, I mean, punchline at the end, withheld. What is the ultimate? Is it going to be like Matt Canada finally gets it, or is it going to be the players finally get it?
Well, first, I mean, this man did not have to add Mr. Optimistic into his title for me to just surmise that. I mean, I would be very surprised were this to occur. But this would be a real rising tide, all boats kind of situation. Like, yeah, the players would get most of the praise, but there would be, since I do think if this were to happen, and again, this feels like, what would I do if I had a unicorn? And it showed up in my garage. But if this were to happen, there would be a whole lot from like so many people in the media that we've been making fun of for a while that doing like, it's time for all of you, the fans, to apologize to Matt Canada, because this would be such a dramatic change, and B, there was so much vociferous hatred last season. Like, so this would, if this were to occur, this like genuine Cinderella story, then yeah, it would be the players, and then it would be Canada would get more praise than I think might seem possible right now, just because of what it would be a backlash. I mean, that's what that praise would be. It would be an actual response to how much hatred we saw. Again, this still feels like, will I buy a private jet that's big enough for everyone in my extended family? But yeah, I think that's how that would go in this particular fantasy.
Never say never, but never.
I think this is be careful what you wish for. If the Steelers offense is top 10 in many categories, I think that's going to mean that we've been playing behind a lot because we're going to have to, make up some of that fourth quarter yardage and stuff. So it probably means we're not playing the type of game plan we want because I imagine that, we'll be more about holding teams to yardage than necessarily scoring points.
That is a good point. If the offense is top 10 in many categories, the defense might not be. And, and also too, it's also many categories as what. I imagine. I don't want to put something in this guy's mouth, but he was thinking in terms of like passing and touchdowns, all that. Top 10 in many categories in terms of like ball possession and yards per carry, like those kind of stats would be the ones that would lead to this team winning games, not passing yardage.
Yeah, I would love to be top 5 in ball control this year. Yeah,
that would help this team.
All right, let's go to at Kyle Beagle. Kyle Beagle, Bleacher Report. Pittsburgh will probably be one of the most boring teams in the league this year. I actually think this is a correct take.
Fantastic. Absolutely. I don't even want to make fun of Mr. Kyle Beagle, which is such a wonderful AI sounding name. But yes, I agree, and that would lead to a very good season. Were this to be a boring team, everyone else can enjoy running up and down the field, multiple interceptions, ball control, stingy defense, running the ball, running the clock, getting an inordinate amount of touches to the fullback, the fourth receiver, the third string tight end, all these wonderful boring things that would add up to a successful season. Yes.
Undynamic, just ball control.
It's just a very plodding, blunt object kind of attack. Yeah.
But this past season it was a pretty boring team for I think up until maybe the fourth quarter comebacks.
Well, I think that's a good point. Again, this is another case of the last 9 games of last season kind of hopefully providing a jumping off point for what this team's going to be in the coming season, because the first half of last season was in its own way not boring. A lot of interceptions and big plays against, and those are the things that get on TV.
Forgettable, if anything. I don't know. Okay, well.
Oh my God!
Groomed.
Kenny, you bastard!
Still grooming Kenny. Don't forget about our QB1 here. Let's go to at Lucial 1992, Matthew Lucial. Kenny Pickett had a 97.6 QBR when targeting George Pickens last season. This is the best QBR by any quarterback targeting any wide receiver this season with a minimum of 50 attempts. I almost thought this was fake. I thought, is this fake? And then I looked, and this is actually from back in January. Brooke Pryor originally tweeted this or wrote this in her article, but because I'm kind of cold on Pickett to Pickens as far as I'm not expecting 1,200 yards or 10 touchdowns.
Yeah, I would be too. This is, I think, just on top of that's part of the reason I don't trust as much as I didn't trust the old QB rating, which had that max out of 158.3 or whatever. I'm even more against the one that apparently tops out at 100, like numbers should. But yeah, this all sounds fine. My first thought was the minimum of 50 attempts. How much higher than 50 were these attempts? That's
a good point.
So it's, but the thing is, anytime the team loses, that's what they're going to criticize the play calling for the most, is that they didn't go Pickens to Pickens. I'm with you. I think it's an important weapon. I think it's a viable weapon. I think it's not a crutch in and of itself.
Yeah. Pete, like again, the same person who texted me was like DJ or Pickens, and I said, if you're talking fantasy and you're talking receptions and yards, it's probably DJ is still wide out number one.
And also, you can probably get him pretty low in your fantasy league since he had no touchdowns last year. I bet you get him before a lot of other people.
Yeah, compared to
the guy that's going on national magazines and saying I'm the best receiver in the game. Yes,
compared to Kendrick Green. Don't draft Kendrick Green in your not yet. One more thing. Oh yeah, one more thing on Kenny. By Josh Carney. Josh Carney. For Steelers quarterback Mason Rudolph, his time in the QB room last season was the most fun I've had in his NFL career to date. is this the most shade Mason has ever thrown?
You thought the exact same thing as me. Yes. How could it not be? I mean, here's two guys that you want to go out, you want to hang out with, two guys more or less your age that you can party with, that you can have a good time, versus Ben just over there glowering at you if he's at all acknowledging your presence.
I remember, was it last season or it must have been 2 seasons ago, where Ben posted that video of him, they're like playing like hot shots hoop in the office, and he's dunking over the offensive line coach, and Mase is just sitting there like on his pad, like doing his, and I'm thinking, man, Mason doesn't have much fun there. So if this is the most fun, you mean what? Well, I mean, I guess there's no hot shots hoops in the locker room.
Well, maybe there is, but maybe it's other people get to play more of the hot shots hoops. Maybe we've democratized the hot shots hoops process. No one comes in with a Hall of Fame resume for hot shots hoops.
Mason has someone he can show his swipes to finally. Like Ben didn't care to.
Well, I mean, we didn't see him at the picture, but like I assume Mason was at least invited to that wedding. That group.
Oh, really?
I'd be stunned if he wasn't. I mean, that's, maybe not. I don't know, but but it seems like that would have been, it's, and you know what? It just hit me. Even if he wasn't, I take him at his word that this is still the most fun he's had in the NFL to date.
We can't speculate and recollect.
All the more reason I wish Hard Knocks was this year. We could see Kendra Green. We could see Mason in the locker room. This is this Jets thing. I'm not down with it. All right. Well, you know what? I think that there's a band trying to get on the field. Mason is in the way. He's the drum major. That's so much fun.
See, I believe that. I could believe that.
No fun in the locker room? Come on, Mace. Not much fun to talk engineering with Josh Dobbs and. So this is the sign, and this is the
exactly.
cosign.
Yeah, exactly. Here, why don't you look at my homework? All right, check this out.
All right, just a couple odds and ends. Let's go back to at Luciao 1992, Matt Luciao. Najee Harris needs 700 rushing yards this season to break the Steelers' franchise record for most yards in first 3 seasons. This kind of snuck up on me because I'm thinking like Lev Bell. We're just a couple weeks ago we were talking about how he's the 3rd greatest rusher statistically, but here's Najee on pace here.
I mean, I would have thought the bus. I mean, which like I said when I saw this, I immediately thought, are they saying from the start of the player's career, the start with the Steelers? But no, I mean, it shows. As much as it feels like Najee, I feel like so much of the frustration that part of the fan base has with Najee is that it doesn't feel like he's taken over games or won games by himself. But I'm not sure we necessarily live in a league anymore where that's something that can happen all that often. I mean, it barely happens all that often with Henry and the Titans.
There was some talk like, well, you want to take it easy on Najee this season,
but that's not how Tomlin ever does things.
So I already hate to look next year. So are you thinking option time? You ready to pick up his option if he becomes this if he breaks the Steeler franchise record for most yards in 3 seasons?
Well, what I do think is that Tomlin is going to do everything in his power to get them to pick up that option. I mean, everything you hear is how much he loves Najee, how much he believes in Najee, how much he wants to run the offense through Najee. So, barring some kind of catastrophic injury or something, I would assume that at least Tomlin's going to fight very hard for that. I do think he's going to break this record, but I want them to use Jalen plenty too. I mean, Jalen showed that he can be a great, change of pace back. And also by doing that makes it easier on Najee since, again, it didn't happen for all of them, but something Najee has over the other Steeler running backs in history is that 17-game season.
Yeah, that's going to skew all these stats, isn't it? I'm like, it's already, I don't want to say asterisks because.
No, 1 game isn't worth an asterisk. And also Najee was hurt we'll never get a clear answer on it for how much, but at least the first month of last season.
Should there be a 12-game era, a 16-game era,
Well, I mean, I think we're people are going to be aware of those kinds of things when you look at the highlights. You're like, oh, this guy's picture's in black and white, and this guy's in HD.
We get all those stupid, comparison fights, like who was better, LeBron or Kobe. We don't have a ton of those in Steeler Nation, but
right.
Terry Ben, that kind of stuff. But,
and even then, they played fewer games then too. I think it's but Yeah, but you're going to see a lot more of this kind of thing where somebody is, I mean, this also looks very different if, say, you take away a game and it's, Najee needs 850 rushing yards, right? Najee needs 900 rushing yards. Then you're like, I mean, he still probably sets this record.
Yeah.
But it's not, but you might look at it just a little bit more dogs in a fan.
He's heating up.
Well, this is the heating up year, is it? I don't know. I just wanted to get that in there.
Always.
And the final word is our master of the obvious.
There he is.
Moo. Master of the obvious. Was that just one moo?
I don't know how many moves you have.
I thought it was going to be like 3 moos. He was just our ally just a month ago. Now, at the herd, Colin Cowherd. The Steelers have 3 playoff wins in the last 12 seasons. They have embarrassing losses. Remember the one to Tebow, to Blake Bortles, to Baker Mayfield? He went on this whole rant like he was like, we look back in history like it was like he discovered this. Like not everyone in Steeler Nation hasn't been dwelling on these 3 games our entire lives.
Well, I think also with Colin, I think it's particularly funny because of that other clip you put out where in July he said, as of today, the Steelers are in the playoffs and not in the Ravens, and nothing has happened today, and nothing has happened since then. It is.
I enjoy that Mayfield loss. I'll be quiet now.
But I think it's one of the, I don't know if I've ever said this, but it's one of the reasons I'm so glad we do this show once a week and not 5 days a week, and not for 3 hours 5 days a week, because the more time you have to fill, the more time you have to do things like this, where it's like, hey, here's the thing I learned that other people know, and we're talking about this now. So I'm grateful that by doing this less, we have less opportunity to say repetitively dumb things.
You're exactly right.
Yeah, you are exactly right. It's like, I know he's a national platform, but it's like I've been dwelling on these 3 losses, I think, every day for the last, I don't know. I feel like this is my life. I can't remember a time before Tebow. Was there a time before Tebow? I can't even,
Well, they came back in that game, too. I mean, the other 2 games, they were never in against the Jaguars or the Browns. They came back.
They scored, yeah.
But the Broncos game, they pushed that one to overtime at least.
Yeah, the Browns one, there wasn't a lot of luck in that game.
Well, I mean, but they weren't prepared. Steelers weren't prepared coming at that thing. I mean, the very first play, they fumbled into the end zone.
That's why I say playoffs, anything. It's like in the NFL, any given Sunday, but even more so in the playoffs.
Right, because every game is a game 7.
That's why I don't treat 3 playoff wins in 12 seasons. I don't treat that as a trend. I treat that as 12 individual occurrences. Does that make sense, though? I don't know.
Close enough, yeah.
That's what we've been talking about.
I guess. Email the show, yinspod412 at gmail.com. Email me, and maybe we'll try to get that. I'm trying to find a more direct way to do conversation, because Twitter is not,
No, Twitter's not that is passing away.
Threads is still not up to speed. I got invited to Blue Sky.
Hey, that's the best news all day.
Is it? I don't know.
It's close.
I don't have a profile finished yet, but
okay.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the best way to keep the you can follow me on TikTok. I've been doing that.
Good.
At Kyle Kreis. What about you?
I've come to enjoy Instagram as much as a person can, I suppose. At Greg Benevent, B as in Bravo, E-N-E, V as in Victor, E-N-T.
If you are in the Los Angeles area, this Saturday is opening night of the Burbank Comedy Festival, where you can see comics like Jay Leno or Laura Keitlinger, but across the hall, with probably a broken AC and no bar service, you'll find
They'll probably
me.
have both of those things by Saturday, I gotta say.
No, they will. They will. You can see me at Flappers Comedy Club in Burbank.
I will be there in attendance. I will enjoy that.
You'll regret it. Otherwise, I don't know. Until next week, keep listening to your coach.
Be their best self. That's going to be required.
Stay in school.